Hey guys, this is Claudia here from the Bookkeeping Experts. I've been an accountant, bookkeeper for a long time. I love to help people like you to understand QuickBooks Online and use it towards taking your business to the next level. Today we're going to talk about Square. We have a lot of material on Square, and Glenn asked me a question today. First, she wanted to know my opinion, and I think I gave it before, between the old style of Square integration versus the new integration. I know that some people don't like the new system with the Square integration, but I like it. I like it a lot more, and I'll tell you why. One, on the old system, when Square would send transaction, it would send it as an invoice with the payment and the deposit, and then you would match it in QuickBooks. And at times you could set up a Square clearing account, and then transaction would stop on the clearing account and then record it as a transfer into the checking, and then you would match it. That was a good way, but there were some very serious issues. If you've been a bookkeeper for a long time and you had some cleanups with Square, you're gonna understand what I'm saying. The thing is that by sending it as an invoice instead of sales receipt, if for some reason you had duplication, and I had a lot of customers that would come up to me with thousands of duplicated transactions. That was insanity, thousands. And in order to delete, you have to go one by one, delete the deposit and then delete the invoice, or delete the deposit, delete the payment, delete the invoice. And for the invoice, you can delete as a bunch, but as far as the payment goes, you have to delete one at a time. Now, if you have a client that set up Square integration to send individual transactions, imagine the pain. And you tell me about it if you had that issue before. So it was a nightmare, and there's no way for you to just exempt or take it out unless you delete the transaction. If it was old transactions and it was never matched, there's ways to clean up with the adjustment from undeposited funds. However, it was no fun. That's not the right way to do, especially if that client's still closing for the current year. So that's what I didn't like about it. I really didn't like it. What I like about it is that, having a clearance account does make it better, because it hit the clearance account and then it goes into the checking account as a transfer. As long as you'd match that transfer, you'd be okay. However, if there was any problem and the transfer was not recorded into the checking, and you recorded that as sales, then you were duplicating the sales. Now, with the new method, what I like about it is that you have more flexibility, and it goes right into banking and then app transaction. Once again, and I tell quite often, if you are using the accountant or the business view, you can change that. This is the accountant view. You can change it by clicking on the gear menu on the top right hand side of QuickBooks. I'm going to show it to you. Let me show. We're going to go to QuickBooks. There you go. So top right hand side of QuickBooks, and then right on the bottom, switch to accountant view. Or right now it's showing me to switch to business view, but we'll keep it accountant. Anyhow, left hand side, banking, app, transaction. So if you are on the business view, it would be transactions, app, transactions. Okay. Now, this is where you integrate with QuickBooks, and right now it's asking me if I like it, and yes, I actually love it. Okay, now is it perfect? No, it's not. And would I recommend? Yes, I would, because if it works for your business, and if you don't have a lot of exceptions, then it works perfectly. Now, if you have a more complex integration, and when I say complex, is that if you have savings in Square, if you have payroll and you're paying tips and so on and so forth, it gets a little more complex, and at times you do need to do some journal entry for adjustments. The worst that I've seen was a client that had different sales tax for each of her products in her store, and she had to set up each product as a different sales tax rate. Some were non-taxable, some were taxable. And when those transactions would come into QuickBooks, first of all, the first time when she didn't know that those transactions were coming, some were not supposed to be charged sales tax, and they would come with sales tax that would not match, and anyhow, it was a big mess. So that was a huge problem. And then when we started sending all the transactions individually, it wouldn't match because of the difference in sales tax anyways. It just didn't work very well. In that situation, I recommended that they would disconnect because it just didn't work well. Square integration right now, it's not perfect for that kind of complex integration. Now, there's a couple of ways that Square integration is working. One is when it does use a Square Bank. Now, Glenn asked me also, what are some of the accounts that you need to have in order to integrate with QuickBooks? And yes, Square Fee is one of them. Square Income, it's another one. So Square Fees, Square Income, and then if you have tips, and if you have Square Payroll, then you'd have some payroll liabilities as well. So it depends, right? Now, in order for you to verify the settings of your Square integration, on the top right hand side, if you click on App Settings, okay, it's going to show the items that you can change and the accounts. Now, there are two ways for you to integrate with QuickBooks. One is to do a lump sum, which that's what I highly recommend. Like, your transactions will come as a lump sum according to the amount that was transferred to your account, and then it's easier to match because that's the amount that hit your account. The other one is to bring transactions individually. That way, and track individual sales. I do not recommend that unless you have big tickets sales. So fewer and bigger. Now, I have clients that have very small ticket sales, like $5, $6, $7. In that case, it is a nightmare, and a lot of them. So you have 100 of $5 each. Imagine what a nightmare it is to match that to the deposit that hit as a couple $1,000, and you have a bunch of $5, $6, $7 tickets. So I would not recommend that if you have lots of transactions, small transactions. If you have bigger transactions and you want to track those individual sales, then yes, you can do that. But I always recommend to send it as a lump sum. Now, if you linked it as individual, track individual sales, and now you want to change it, the only way to change it, unfortunately, is to disconnect and then connect again. For other changes, such as bank accounts and so on, so forth, you can actually change it right here. For instance, the location, you can change it right here. Items, Square items. Square items because we only have one. We're not tracking individual transactions, like I said, so we just call it a square item, right? Oh, contacts are drying out. Okay. And like I said, I'm also not tracking individual customers. We just call it square customer. And then those are the main accounts, Glenn, that you're gonna need. Okay. So if you have gift card, you're gonna need gift card, tips, discount. If you have shipping and square fees, call it square merchant fees or square fees. So those are the accounts you're gonna need to be able to, before you create the integration. I do have another video on that where I talk about before you integrate, you want to map by verifying all the accounts, if the accounts are over there on the chart of accounts. And number two, take a look at the products and service. Now the products and service is a little different. In that case, you would actually go into Square and export as a CSV file. It's an Excel file into QuickBooks Online. So that's how you do that prior to integrating, if you're going to track individual transactions, right? So those are the two things. Now to download the products and service, on the left hand side you click on sales. Oh, okay, we're gonna get out of here. So this is where you change, by the way, you can change everything here. Okay, whenever there's a pencil, you can change that. All right, but you cannot change, like I said, if you want, like this is square customer, means I'm not tracking you. You can change to one customer, but not like lump sum. Okay. All right, for products and service, click on sales and then products and service, and so see where it says right next to new, the little arrow, import. This is where you would import if you want to track individual sales. Like I said, I do not recommend that unless you have big sales tickets, big and fewer, because if you have big and a lot of them, then it's going to be a lot of work too. So a lot of work in matching those individual transactions into the deposit that hit the account. So that's the main thing. Okay. So this is where you would import. Now keep in mind that there's, if you are trying to import an Excel CSV file with your products, sometimes it doesn't work because of the formatting of the Excel spreadsheet. Take a look at the dates, take a look at the details, make sure everything is formatted correctly according to what QuickBooks would take. Okay, and that's the only format you can. Oh, actually Google Sheets should be able to also be imported in here, and this was a recent update with QuickBooks. Okay. All right, so back into the integration as we talk about banking app transaction. Okay, so those transactions, when you're accepting them in QuickBooks Online, you need to accept them first before you add the income in banking. Okay, so you'd add here and see that there's two transactions on each one of them, and one transaction is received and the other one spent. Basically what is recording in this case, this account is set up to have a clearance, Square clearance account, okay, or a Square bank. Okay, and transactions will flow into that account and come out as a transfer. So that's how it works. All right, now this is available if you have a Square bank account and you were connected previously. If you're just first connecting, it's not going to give you that option. It's just going to go straight into the bank account. So once you accept, but keep in mind, before accepting that, if you're concerned that this transaction is there, take a look at the amount first and then accept it. Like I said, the only reason why we have to on this one is because we have the clearance account. Now, if we didn't, the only thing you would see is received, except if there was refunds in here. Okay, so I would take a look at this transaction, for instance, and make sure that this transaction is available in the bank. Okay, so flip the date here. All right, so we have the one of the tickets over here. By the way, I always like to duplicate the page to be able to go in back and forth when I'm accepting transactions in Square. The way you do it, bring your mouse all the way to the top of the tab, right click it, click on duplicate, and then you can go back and forth. Keep in mind, if you're working on one side, it's not going to automatically update on the other one. You can always click on categorize and then back to for review, and that would update the page for you. Okay, so this one is the bank account, this one is the transaction, so this one matches exactly. See that? All right, so this is spend, and the reason why we're gonna add this into the bank, Square Bank, and this one is gonna work as a transfer into the bank. So if I go back to bank, so I send that first, and then I match in the bank. Okay, so that's how it works. But remember that it doesn't automatically update. Oh. Oh, that's the wrong one. All right, wrong date. Okay. This is just a simple account, so sometimes it doesn't. I'm gonna switch the date here. We're doing it by date. Newest. Click here. And my system is slow. Oh, are you serious? It flipped the date again. Okay, new problema. Click on the date, and those are all filters, by the way. So sometimes people never know it, and I really like to work with amounts sometimes. A filter by amount. See the transaction over here. Now you want to make sure that this is not the one. Actually, this is a different transaction. See that the transaction that happened was on September 1st, around September 1st. And this is the transaction right here. That's why it wasn't matching over there. See that there is a transfer over here. And the way it happens that because this one does have a clearance account, like I said, it was connected before, the simple account. If you click on the chart of account, there is a clearance account. Okay, and it is negative. When it is negative, is because the income was not recorded in. So you want to make sure you take a look at that, and it has to be zero at the end of the day, right? It's got to record all the income, all the transfers. So if we take a look here and just flip the date, you'll see that there's $242.45 getting into the account and $387.05 coming out, right? Because this is more than one deposit. So coming back here, we were able to see that that was the right transaction, and that's how you would add the transaction here. So it would impact the Square Bank in this case, and would impact the sales. Like I said, first you would have to add on the app transaction and then back in banking. Now, like I said, once again, if your account does not have a Square Bank because it was newly connected and it doesn't go through the clearance account, it goes straight into the account, then just make sure that it's matching in here. If not, it's gonna record to your bank and not gonna match it. If there is any discrepancy, then you're gonna have to eliminate. Now, one thing that I mentioned to you, what I really like about this new setting is that you can actually exclude transactions and exclude it as a bulk. So let's suppose that all these transactions already have been recorded. I can click on the top here and then exclude selected. How cool is that? If you if you're a bookkeeper or a business owner or an accountant that had to clean Square transactions in the past because you can't do this on the old system, you will appreciate that. You will really appreciate that. And I do. That's one of the reasons that I like integration. Now, keep in mind, you guys, integrations are not always perfect. They're, sometimes they work better than others. This one is one that works pretty good. There's not very good reviews because sometimes there's bugs in the system. Some of the bugs is that if you had the old integration before, and then you try to integrate in a new way, you disconnect it, and you try to connect it, sometimes it's not going to let you integrate. And the reason why is because there is a bug in the integration. And in that case, unfortunately, you have to keep calling back and forth Square, and then they say call Intuit, because this is an Intuit integration, by the way. So if you know, it is a third party, but it's by Intuit, which is the same company that, if you don't know, that designed QuickBooks. So it goes back and forth until finally you get a result. But usually you call Square first, ask them. They're gonna say, oh, we can't do anything, call QuickBooks. And then you're gonna say, I already called Square and we know the problem is here. So you gotta persist with them, be firm. and they have to delete something on the back. The interesting thing, if you are an accountant, you can take a look on your account links and verify your client's app, and if it is showing there, even though you disconnected, if it's showing on your side that it is connected, that's a sign that there is a problem, because even though you deleted it, somehow there's like a leftover. That's what it is. That's what I think. But anyhow, that's the bug going on with that. So but other than that, it is a great integration. If you can integrate, if you have a simple integration, that works marvelous. If it is a little more complex, then you may have to do a few journal entries here and there. But it's cleaner too. Like I said, if you have duplicated transactions, you can exclude easily. The old way, no way. It was a nightmare. Nightmare deleting those transactions or clearing up people's book with thousands of 5-6 little transactions that would integrate with QuickBooks. So anyhow, if you have any questions and you'd like maybe a one-on-one Zoom meeting to have a more individual tutorial, feel free to contact us. Our information is down below. If you're a business owner and you want somebody to help you understand QuickBooks so you can take your business to the next level, also contact us. We can help you with that. Or if you want just to, give your the bookkeeping duties to us, we will take good care of that, and you'll be able to focus on your business while we focus on that we like to do most. I absolutely love spending time with you each week, and I love hearing from you. Let us know what would you like to know, or what would you like me to cover next week. Thanks for spending the time with me this week, and until next time, keep on smiling.